Hello everybody and welcome back to Typical City. The UEFA Super Cup is in the cabinet, in the bag of Manchester City's trophy cabinet, a new trophy, and I'm obviously happy about that. But there is a bit of a caveat with that performance. How much it mattered to the players is brought up into question, and their performances overall. And this has brought me to start a new theme, and we're going to consistently do this on the channel from now on. Player ratings, which I think is an interesting topic. So let's get straight into it and how well they actually played, because I don't think there were many standout performances yesterday. It was very, very subpar. One of the worst performances I've seen in months, to be honest. Going all the way back into the middle of last season, I think when we got knocked out by Southampton in the League Cup last season was the last time I saw City play as disjointed and below our usual standards, and it was sloppy at times, in particular in that first half. But let's get straight into it. Ederson. Now, I'm going to give him a 7.5 because of that big save that he made in the second half. It was a save that was huge. It was huge. Straight after the equaliser as well. And this has come from Kyle Walker's mistake, where he just was underneath the ball. The ball was coming to him at about the halfway line, and he just misread it completely, and he just seemed to let it go. He didn't even jump. I don't understand. Did someone give him a shout or something? All of a sudden, Ocampos is bursting down the left-hand side. Ederson comes out, makes himself big one-on-one save, vitally important. But let's have a look at his stats. 90 minutes played, 39 touches, 90.3% possession, accuracy, passing accuracy. 3 saves, 1 was huge and 1 clearance. But it is that big save, but I wanted to see more of those long balls, and tactically it was working against Burnley. Those long balls that we saw, because Burnley went man-to-man, and we saw Ederson just spraying balls all over the pitch, all the way up to Erling Haaland, and just making Erling Haaland, putting him in one-on-one positions. But the tactics couldn't really utilise that yesterday. Sevilla dropped deep as soon as Ederson had the ball, so they weren't allowing Ederson to hit that ball long. So I think that big save brings Ederson into one of our best performances yesterday. I think he was the best player, really, certainly out of the defensive players. Which brings me on to Kyle Walker. I've already mentioned that mistake that he made, but it wasn't the only mistake he made, unfortunately. There was a moment where Ocampos was bursting down the left wing, and Kyle Walker usually reads those situations quite well, and he'll run back with him, but instead he goes flying in. No chance of winning the tackle all the way through, and luckily I think it was Akanji who got back in time and covered Kyle Walker. But there was mistakes in Kyle Walker's game yesterday that was a little bit concerning. Sloppy is the word, and I think so many of the players are going to have that word associated with them. I think Kyle Walker was one of the worst performers out of the back line yesterday. Let's have a look at his stats. 107 touches, 91.8% passing accuracy, 1 tackle and 1 interception, which is decent, but I think there was a couple of times where Kyle Walker's speed was used as you'd expect. We saw him get back a couple of times and, kill counter-attacks, which is good, but there was too many mistakes from Kyle Walker, gifting opportunities to Sevilla, so I've gone for a 5.5 for Kyle Walker. Manuel Akanji was the biggest problem yesterday, and I don't think it's even his fault. I blame Pep, to be honest. I think Pep playing him in that position and giving him a certain duty and a certain role, that asking him to go forward. I'm still waiting to hear an answer from anybody. I've questioned in the watch long yesterday, and that's not having a go at you guys. I know full well, because I don't know. Why did Pep do that? Why did Pep put Akanji in attacking midfield at times where it wasn't an inverted fullback or a centre-back given a little bit more of a licence to go forward? He was the closest to Erling Haaland on 5 or 6 occasions. In the first half in particular, he was the closest player to Erling Haaland. This is our centre-back we're talking about. Why? Why was he doing that? It made no sense. And if you're going to pick a player out of all those players that, let's say Ake, Gvardiol and Akanji can all play, what are those three? Out of those 3 players, which one would you pick as the best player to retain the ball? You'd go Gvardiol first, Ake second, and then Akanji third. So why is he given an attacking responsibility? Pep Guardiola in finals seems to have this ability to just throw a spanner in the works that's totally unneeded. Last Champions League final that we lost, no Rodri, no Fernandinho. He just does something a bit crazy every once in a while, Pep, and I never understand it. It just didn't make sense to me. But the passing accuracy surprises me, 91.6, because that other 8.4% passing accuracy was some of those were real giveaways. You talk about the ones he give away. they were big. They were real simple 5-10 yard passes that were just given away in dangerous positions to the point where Sevilla just broke on us and countered attack. And then within the first 5 minutes, Akanji was tackled and they went in on goal. And he had a bad game. He had a very bad game, Akanji. And I think Pep needs to take a bit of the responsibility, asking him to play in a very unfamiliar role to him. I mean, even against Arsenal, he was playing left back. So I think Pep's overestimating Akanji's versatility here. I think he's a centre-back and maybe, if needed, a right-back. Leave it at that, I think. I don't think Akanji should be asked to do anything else now. I think we've proven that he can't do those roles and he looks out of his depth. So 5 for Akanji. Nathan Ake, I think he was the best out of the back line, namely Walker, Akanji, and Ake. I think he was the best. Look at that passing accuracy, 97.5%. That is just great. Absolute quality on the ball. I do remember him giving it away, though. He gave a simple 1 yard pass away. Like, really simple stuff. One moment from Ake was a mistake. And I also want to highlight the goal as well, because I think that was a little bit more Gvardiol's fault than it was Ake's fault, because Gvardiol's got the picture in front of him as that cross is coming in from, I think it was Acuna. Was it Acuna? I can't remember who whipped in the cross, but En-Nesyri got underneath it. He found himself in between Ake and Gvardiol, so it was good forward positioning sense. But in that moment, Ake needs to use his experience and understand that there's got to be I can't see a forward in front of me, so there has to be one behind me. Assume there is. Always assume the worst as a defender. Never assume that there's no one behind you. And then Gvardiol, just to back that situation up, Gvardiol needs to be screaming at Ake, En-Nesyri's in between us. He needs to either get his hand on En-Nesyri's back and sort of just guide him out from underneath the flight of the ball. Don't push him too hard to give a penalty away, but, just gently let him know you're there. Just nudge him a little bit so it's not so much of a foul, just to get him from underneath the flight of the ball. Neither did their jobs in that position, and Ake got clattered. It was a great goal from Sevilla's point of view, an amazing header, but the positional sense of Ake and Gvardiol could have been better. So that was the one moment. Other than that, Ake was okay. He was solid, did enough of a job, and every time he was asked to do anything basic, he did it reasonably well. Got 1 tackle to his name, no key passes, and 0 interceptions with 89 touches, which he was okay. He was okay. There was no one standing out really in this game, was it? I think it was a below par performance from everybody. Josko Gvardiol, his starting debut, the first time in the starting 11. Mixed from him. I think there was a couple of moments where he looked a bit nervous, on the ball. And then there was a couple of moments in the second half in particular where he was forced into being an instinctive player. Muscle memory was kicking in and he was surrounded by about 2 or 3 players and he squirmed his way out of a position brilliantly. I remember he was very much in the attacking third, but look at those key passes. That's what you want. Especially seeing as he's playing fullback, he's going to be more advanced up the pitch. So you want to see key passes going up. And he did just that. There was a couple of moments, and he linked up with Kovacic really nicely a couple of times. Those 2 Croatian players using their linguistic skills of knowing each other well enough, and it worked. There was a couple of times where it worked quite well. 88.9% passing accuracy, 113 touches, interceptions was okay. Defensively, I need a bit more positional awareness from him, but he's playing left back. He's more familiar with centre back. You question whether Ake and which is better at left back. I personally prefer Gvardiol at left back, because I think he's more of a ball player. We saw what he can do bringing the ball forward. Defensively, a couple of times caught out of position, but I think he was disjointed with the whole back four. They all looked completely out of shape. And I think that was namely because Akanji was so far forward. They all had to move and to make up for the space that Akanji was leaving behind him, and then asking Gvardiol to get forward as well. That was not an easy task. So starting debut, you've got to give him a free pass. You've got to give him a free pass. It's his first game starting for Manchester City. So I've given him a 6.5. I think that's reasonable. Mateo Kovacic, he did the simple things reasonably well. A couple of moments where he gave the ball away, but these weren't simple passes that when he was giving it away. He was the only player really throughout the game that was trying to break the lines. In our own half, he kept the ball well. That's what you want. You're keeping the ball well. You're not giving it away in dangerous positions. But when he broke forward, that 83.3% and the giveaways that we're talking about there, or when he's actually trying something. Kevin De Bruyne is known for having a low percentage pass completion, and that's not because he's poor at passing the ball. It's because he tries something different. He'll always try the difficult pass, and the difficult pass is harder to pull off. And because it's difficult to pull off, you're going to give it away every now and again. But if it comes off, you're in. You know, you've killed the opposition, you've broke their lines, and you've found Erling Haaland or whoever it may be, and you've broke that line. He was the only player throughout the game that was genuinely trying a forward pass. There was a lot of sideway movement and really pedestrian football at times through our midfield, trying to slowly move the shape of Sevilla across the pitch. And you do have to give credit to Sevilla for making such a good shape. And it was difficult to break down. We struggled, but we didn't move the ball quickly enough. And I think Kovacic was the only one that was trying to pass quickly through the lines, and I think he deserves a 7 for that. There you can see his key passes, a 3 as well, one shot off target, a 0 on target. So yeah, I think he was solid, and 58 touches as well. That's not that many in truth, is it? Rodri, I think he was good, really good. I think he was up for it. First half, a little bit sloppy. Second half, he took the game by the scruff of the neck. He was everywhere in that second half. Having watched the game back now, he did fly under my radar. I never really talked about Rodri that much, in particular in my watch-along. I thought he was good. Now I've watched the game back, I've not given him enough credit. Certainly in my match reaction and during the watch-along, I didn't really talk about Rodri that much, but look at that. You know, key passes, 5. Got himself an assist, and what an assist it was. Delightful cross on a plate for either Erling Haaland or Cole Palmer. 3 shots, yeah, Rodri, I like Rodri having a shot. I've got no problem with him having a shot because we know what he's capable of in terms of smashing one in the top corner. 87.8% pass accuracy, decent. They're the numbers you want to see from, and that's a defensive midfielder. So we've got a defensive midfielder now that's doing both sides of the game. He's almost become a box-to-box Rodri. You know, the numbers that he's getting now, they are box-to-box numbers. You know, so I think he was good. Again, 7.5 for Rodri. Jack Grealish, he is creating a debate now. I think he's being quite a divisive player, polarising for City fans. We're not sure what to make of him. I'm seeing lots of blind faith in Jack Grealish, like just purely blind faith. Just know he's good, but why? Explain why he's good. And then, oh, well, he's shit, Jack Grealish. Oh, he's crap. I've heard that as well. He's useless with some of the comments yesterday. Explain why. Why? Because I'm struggling to... I'm very much in the middle. Because the explanations are hard to explain. I think Pep sees something in what Jack does in terms of his ability to keep the ball. But how many times did you see Jack Grealish take on Jesus Navas yesterday? Go on his left foot once in a while. Every time it was receive the ball, take a couple of touches, do his little movement with his body, the ball doesn't move, and then he passes it back to Foden or he passes it back to Rodri. It's too simple, too often from Jack Grealish. And you compare that to Cole Palmer, who I'm going to go on to in a minute. He gave the ball away more than Jack Grealish, and maybe that annoys Pep, but at least he tried something different once in a while, taking on his fullback, you know, trying to beat his man, because this was a game where we were struggling. We were struggling for creativity. We needed something different in yesterday's game, and I think we were fortunate to get the goal when we did. It was completely against the run of play, completely, and it was Rodri just whipping it in, and it was a goal out of nothing, really. Jack Grealish, he got a few shots off in the first half, and Jack Grealish keeps the ball well. There is no doubting that, and I like Jack Grealish for that. But there are plenty of players that can do what Jack Grealish does. You know, the issue for me is the 100 million. We keep talking about it like, or City fans want us to ignore it now. We can't ignore it. You can't spend a £100 million player and then just be okay with a £100 million player that just keeps the ball. You know, it's not like he's doing anything that amounts to £100 million worth of talent. You know, I want to see him express himself a little bit more, like he did at Villa. He used to try things a little bit, just something a little bit different. He frustrates me, Jack Grealish. I don't think he deserves to be labelled as useless, as a poor player. I just don't think he's doing enough right now, and I imagine that's under instructions from Pep Guardiola. So it's frustrating, but yeah, you can see 3 shots, 2 on target. One was a nice shot in the first half, and that's what you want. Cut inside and have a shot, mate. Just get your shot away. That was decent. I enjoyed that. That was good. That's what you want to see more of that from Jack Grealish. 86% passing accuracy, and 1 key pass, 2 shots on target. So I've given him a 6.5. Very middle of the road performance. Just needed a bit more from Jack Grealish. Phil Foden, I thought he actually struggled to connect and link up with Jack Grealish. I think his performance was okay. I thought his tracking back was brilliant in the second half. There was times where Phil Foden was getting involved in his defensive duties very, very well. Decent passing accuracy there, 89.1%. That's the numbers you want as passing accuracy in a position where it's difficult for those to maintain those numbers. You know, he's playing in an advanced attacking central midfield role yesterday, and he drifted over to Jack's side, he drifted over to Palmer's side, and to keep those numbers at 89.1, that's great. That's really good. Really, really good. Key passes 3, shots 2. I thought he was solid. I think he was just struggling to link up with either Cole Palmer or Jack Grealish, mostly Jack Grealish, because there was times where those two were together and they were looking for 1-2s and they just weren't coming off. They weren't coming off at all, which you want to see that improve, that connection between the two players. I've given him a 7. Cole Palmer, man of the match, hence the pretty gold-coloured rating there. Man of the match, and that's not just because of his goal. I think his goal is worth talking about, because I think the biggest thing about that goal was the fact that he shouted at Erling Haaland, leave it. You know, you're telling Erling Haaland, the goal machine, to back off. This is my ball. That shows balls to me. That showed a mental fortitude that's good. You know, it's showing the capacity to take the situation by the scruff of the neck and say, leave that ball, this is mine. Shouting at Erling Haaland, that's good. I want to see that. That's power from a young lad. Good. And he stepped up, headed it. What a finish as well. That's not easy to just cushion it. It's easy to get overpower on your neck muscles, and he just guides it just over the reach of Bono. Lovely little header. 84% pass, that's the issue for accuracy. I think he needs to up that a little bit. We need to see a little bit more maintaining of the ball, but he was always trying something. The amount of times we saw him take on Acuna and just like look to feint it and dummy it. There was a couple of times where he put Acuna on his arse. Acuna just came sliding in, fully assuming that the shot's about to come in. Very Mahrez-esque, that ability to look like, oh, he's about to whip it and then dummy it, bring it inside. Brilliant. As well as the goal, 4 shots, 3 shots on target, 2 key passes, got a goal, and he only played 72 minutes as well. The one player that came off, man of the match performance for me. He deserves man of the match. Erling Haaland. Now we've got I wouldn't call him a problem because these are the numbers that he was doing last season. The issue for me is that passing accuracy, 75%. That's shite. That's poor. Let's be honest. That's not good enough. You know, 16 touches, 75% passing accuracy. He gave it away when he was given opportunities to play simple 5-10 yard passes. That's got to get into the 80%. We can't be having a 75% passing accuracy of any of our players. That's not good enough. That isn't good enough, and there's no two ways about it. I know Erling Haaland fans will be like, how dare you say anything bad about Erling Haaland? And I'm reluctant to do it. I don't want to say it. Of course I don't. But that's not good enough. 75% isn't good enough. 16 touches. That's not always his fault. A lot of the time, you're blaming the fact that that's his game, first of all. He's obviously under instructions to stay up top, maintain the back two centre-backs, Bardet and Goodell. Those two centre-backs were fully occupied by Erling Haaland's presence. But as a counter to that, you then need to see Foden and Alvarez coming into those roles. And if they're not, Erling Haaland needs to change his game. He needs to read the situation, read the game, what's happening in this game. I'm not getting the ball. Last season, we saw him against Arsenal at the not at the Etihad, at the Emirates. Even at the Etihad as well, there was a couple of moments in both Arsenal games I'm thinking of. He came and got that ball. That first De Bruyne goal, that's him coming deep, getting the ball from John Stones, bringing it down and laying Erling Haaland off. Numerous times. He was beating, Ben White, I think it was, at the Emirates. He was getting it on the wing. You've never seen Erling Haaland on the wing, but it was a man possessed in both those Arsenal games, coming and getting the ball. Brilliant. We need to see more of that, and I'd rather see him try, even if the passing accuracy is affected by that. You'd rather see him get 50 touches and the accuracy isn't as good, but he's affecting the game. He's changing the momentum of the midfield and how the midfield can transition from midfield into attack. And we need to see more of that from Erling Haaland. And staying up top and just standing there with your arms in the air. And he was making runs, but sometimes the defence is so deep, there is no space to run into. There is no space, no channels for him to find, no gaps, no spaces. So if that's the case, you've got to be aware enough to read that and draw your defenders out of position. Even if it's a decoy run, making the space for your opposition players is important. Even if you're sacrificing yourself, just sacrifice yourself and allow others to come into the play and get themselves on the score sheet, even if he's not. You can't just stay up top all the time and just stand there like expecting the ball and be the end of every move. Sometimes you need to be the middle of the move. And that's the one area of Erling Haaland's game that stands out. And if he doesn't score, this will always get highlighted. If he goes and scores like he did against Burnley, I wouldn't be surprised. I haven't looked at the stats for the Burnley game for Erling Haaland. I wouldn't be surprised if they weren't too dissimilar to this in terms of stats, but he got 2 goals, so it doesn't matter. That's the difference for Erling Haaland in that position, and you write Erling Haaland off at your peril, because you know full well that if you get a chance to him, 9 times out of 10 he's going to bury it. He's going to bury it. So it's a really difficult one, and if he comes away with 0 goals to his name at the end of a game, the touches get highlighted, the involvement gets highlighted, and it doesn't look great. So I've given it. He didn't play well, even though when the few times he received the ball, he was giving it away. So I've given him a 5, which is unfortunate. Then you look at Julian Alvarez to counter what I've just said. 6 minutes on the pitch compared to Erling Haaland's 90. 11 touches compared to Erling Haaland's 16. Come on, I know Alvarez is a different player. I understand, but just a little bit of that. If Erling Haaland just did a little bit of Alvarez's game, dropping deep just once in a while, I think his whole game will go to another level. He needs to up his game and become a more rounded footballer than just focusing on being the focal point, that centre forward all the time. Alvarez came on and he was a busybody. He was a live wire. He was all over the place. I think he affected the game quite well. Obviously, it's 1-1 at that point. Comes on 87.5%. You can't get any numbers up in terms of key passes, shots, and shots on target. You can't expect anything in 6 minutes. But I still think he affected the game. He put himself about. He maintained possession reasonably well. And I think overall, I think he deserves his spot against Newcastle at the weekend, which is a game I'm quietly worried about. And I mean, I'm being truthful with you City fans here. I'm a little bit concerned about that game. If we play like we did against Sevilla, we're not getting 3 points against Newcastle. The way they played against Villa. I'll be going into my preview, by the way, tomorrow. So tune in for that one, as well as my watch along on Saturday evening. Come along for that one as well. That'll be good. Looking forward to the game, and I hope we improve, because albeit we won the UEFA Super Cup, you can't just go, who cares? Who cares? We won the UEFA Super Cup. Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter if we played badly. Well, it does a little bit. It does, because eventually performances like this catch up with you. You know, you can't just keep playing like this and getting away with it. I know we've got the talent to play below par and probably beat lesser teams, but that was a cup final. And hopefully this is City finding their feet a little bit. Sevilla took us by surprise. We have to factor in how well Sevilla played, because I think they deserved more than what they got. I'm not convinced that last 20 minutes they sort of collapsed a little bit. As soon as we scored, their heads went a little bit. But overall, I think we were below par. I've given Alvarez a 6, by the way. But yeah, ultimately, we have to improve to beat Newcastle. We have to improve, because we will get caught cold. But Blues, get your ratings in. I want to hear what you think about individuals, who played well, who didn't play well. And get those ratings into the comments below. I'd love to hear them. Like and subscribe. Typical City is the channel, and I'll see you in the next one.
This is Typical City now.